Alrighty, delegations and presentations. Oh,
We
sorry.
just have disclosures, sorry.
Yeah, any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Okay, going on to the delegations and presentations. Kingston for Paws Dog Service. Yeah, in here. Yes.
Well, first of all, I apologize for being late. My computer is acting up, so I'm kind of afraid to try and load a presentation in case it crashes me again. So I think I'll just speak through the presentation so you won't get all the cute dog photos, if that's all right. And I believe we have 20 minutes. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe if you can, I'll do a little timer here, but keep me on track because I want to make sure that I leave space for questions at the end. So
I
thank
will
you
do that.
for. Okay, great. So thank you again for the invitation to be here. My apologies for computer difficulties that have made me late, and I'm not going to try and do the presentation. So we are Kingston Four Paws Service Dogs, a registered charity. Located in Kingston, but we serve clients throughout southeastern Ontario, including a number in your geographic area. Established in 2015, so this is our 10th year anniversary. And in the past 10 years, we've placed over 65 service dogs with individuals and families across the region. We receive no government funding, so all that we do, we're reliant on the generosity of individuals, small businesses, grants, etc. So we train dogs in 4 program service areas for autism, mobility service dogs, seizure response, and PTSD mental health challenges. In addition to that, we place occasionally dogs, what's called canine assisted intervention dogs. So these are dogs that are placed with someone working with an agency. For example, we've placed one with a school board where they're working with, in their Safe Schools program. So that's kind of the 5 program areas that we train our dogs for. I mentioned that we've placed over 60 dogs to date. Important to note that these dogs are placed at no cost to recipients. So they're valued at about $25,000 by the time you get the puppy, all of the vet care, the food, and the training costs. That's kind of what the value is, but they're placed at no cost to recipients. But we do ask our families to help engage and pay it forward. So help raise awareness of the organization and help with fundraising so that we can provide that great news and the service dog to another family. The working life of a service dog is expected to be about 8 to 10 years. So there is a huge return on investment of our dogs because they're with their person, assisting them, 24/7, 365 days a year. So not that they're in working jacket that whole time, but they are available to support their person. So a great return on investment. And that's just a question I get a lot is, to know this when a service dog, when a dog is in jacket, they are working. But when the jacket is off, they get to be a dog like any other dog. They get to play and be goofy and exercise and have fun. So they are working dogs, but they do have good lives. This is not the presentation that I wanted to give. I'm just kind of flipping through the hard copy one that I have. We do rely on volunteers to do most of what we do, including the biggest thing is puppy raisers. So you don't know if you've seen any of the local media here, but we did a big shout out for volunteer puppy raisers because to be able to admit a new puppy into the program, we need to have a place to put that puppy. We don't place a dog until about 2 years of age. So it takes 2 years for the dog to grow, mature, go through all of its training. So it's a pretty extensive process. So we rely on volunteers to open their hearts and homes to these puppies for a year and a half to 2 years while they're going through their formal training, and then at the end they're of course placed with the recipient. In terms of how to access the program, I think that's something Kelly asked me to speak about. So there is an online application form where so they're filling out the application form, which talks about the needs, their medical needs that they need some assistance with, a reference process that's online, and then we do home visits as well because we want to make sure that it's a suitable home for the dog to go into, that it's safe and secure. People in the house, are all supportive of the dog, etc. And then when we are ready to do a placement, the trainers really look to identify a match between the dog and the person. For any dog lovers out there, you know that there's a bond that develops, right? And different dogs have different personalities. So I always like to use the analogy, it's kind of like dating, right? You can't just put a dog and a person together. You have to look to see, is that dog going to be able to meet that person's need? Because that's what they've been trained to do, and a nice personality match, right? Some people can handle a stronger personality dog than others, etc. So the trainers are working to do the skill, but also to make sure that there's a good match and a bond with the pair before they're placed. They go through training together, both we have group training classes and individual training sessions. So the trainers will do both of those with the recipient, maybe try a couple of, they get the dog for a night or two, to kind of try it out. But they're really looking to make sure that that pair is working together as a team before any placement is finalized. And then after they've had some time working together, then they go through and go through their public access test. And that's kind of the check to make sure that the team can work together. And then the dog kind of graduates from their service dog in training jacket to an actual service dog and papered. And that's when the placement is finalized. But we do continue as an organization to provide ongoing support to our clients and the dogs. So that's kind of why we serve the geographic area that we do. Our founder has always said, if the family has an issue, we want to be able to be there the next day to support them. So we kind of do a reasonable distance from Kingston. So I'll stop there and just maybe ask if there's any questions to date on kind of who we are, what we do. It's hard. I'm just seeing a lot of names. So thanks for those that are showing me their faces. No. Okay, I'll just keep going then.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just have one question. What kind of dogs do you use for training?
Really good question. So we use Labrador Retrievers and Standard Poodles. So those are the two dogs, and we always work with breeders, like certified breeders for our dogs that are chosen for the temperaments that would make a good service dog. We love the labs because they are really easy to train because they're so food motivated and just happy-go-lucky and really want to help and serve and make their person happy. We also use standard poodles because for people who have allergies or who might not be able to physically handle a larger, labs can be big and bulky, and poodles are a little bit daintier. So really good question. Those are the two types of dogs that we use.
I was surprised when you said, the 10-year mark, they're usually with their owners for 10 years. But 2 years of training, that's 12 years old. I was just curious what kind of animals you were using. So, yeah, the poodles, well, we've always had labs and absolutely motivated, but we've got a labradoodle or a golden doodle, and not so much food motivated, but super smart.
Oh yeah, the poodles, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Good. So service dogs, you probably know, my timer didn't work. So Kelly, do let me know when I'm getting close to time. So service dogs, I mentioned the areas that we train in. And so they're really there to assist their person, that we call them, their people, overcome challenges or barriers that they're facing in life. So it's pretty amazing what these dogs can be trained to do. By definition, a service dog is trained to fulfill at minimum 3 specific tasks that they do, on command to assist their person. So for example, a mobility service dog, the dog can be trained to, pop up and their paw hits that, accessible door open button. They can pick up retrieved items if someone drops their keys or their wallets. They can go retrieve things. I haven't seen this, but I'm fascinated by it, that they can be trained to help do the laundry because they're pulling clothes in and out of the dryer and things like that. So pretty fascinating there. With the seizure response dogs, It is very difficult to, everybody thinks that it's very difficult to train a dog to predict a seizure. That said, as the bond between the dog and the human develops, that often happens naturally. But what we can train to do is train the dog to assist when a seizure is happening and what they do to support their person throughout and after. So go get help, retrieve medication, create a safe space for the person while they're having the seizure, and then to be there when they come out of it to help provide that emotional support, physical balance to help them maybe get up and things like that. PTSD, mental health. Again, it's the dog is trained to meet the specific needs of the person. So a lot of people with PTSD suffer from, night terrors, right? And they just don't understand the reality. So the dog is trained to identify and interrupt that, right? To kind of let them know that's not real. Hang on, I'm here, etc. Deep pressure, we have a command called paws up, where the dog will, put their paws or their body weight on the human. So it's kind of like a warm hug. Who doesn't feel comforted when you get a warm hug, right? That deep pressure therapy. And also interrupting behaviors. A lot of times people will have like some kind of indication that they're having that anxiety, like I'm scratching my hand or I'm doing something. The dog is trained to be aware of that behavior and then intervene and go in a preach to kind of, or intervene to distract and support the person. So pretty fascinating, the skills that can be shared. And I say that because just to make the differentiation between a service dog, which is there to provide specific support to the person to help mitigate some of these challenges, versus a therapy dog or an emotional support dog, which absolutely has a wonderful role, but it's different. So it's the service dogs that have the legal access rights. So they have, human rights legislation. They have the right to go wherever their person goes, with the exception of two things. And I always like to, in my university level classes, any guesses where those two places that service dogs are not allowed to go? I'm looking at the few people off camera to see if there's any guesses. Okay, so Tracy,
I was just gonna say, like food service type places.
Yeah. Okay. So not all of them, but one in very specific. So thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that. Commercial kitchens. So they're not allowed in a commercial kitchen. So they can be in the restaurant in the area, but they can't be in that commission. All right. Okay. And a second one. I wish I had prizes to hang out. Okay, I'll just give it to you because operating rooms. So obviously it's probably, you probably don't want a dog in a really sanitary where surgery is going on. So those are the two places that they don't have access rights to. And interesting, in preparing for this meeting, and I'm not the one to speak about, access barriers or whatnot, but I was asking a couple of recipients, if they've had challenges and what kind of message they'd want me to communicate to you in this talk. And the one thing that kind of comes up is just the education, right? And letting people know what the, what the, just to confirm the access rights and also how to handle how to deal with a dog in jacket. So, kind of could go two places with that one. So let me just go in terms of the in jacket. So, a lot of times dogs are everybody knows they're not supposed to pet a dog. It's amazing when we're doing puppies and training, how many people go, oh, I'm not supposed to pet the dog, but they're going down to lean down and pat the dog, right? So we're still working on that one, but there is certainly a growing awareness that we see in terms of people, like parents telling their kids, okay, see the dog in jacket, it means they're working. Please don't touch. But so that's there, but always the thing is just to make sure you're dealing with the person and not the dog, right? It's almost like ignore the dog and treat the person, as the human being that they are, and not trying to disrupt the dogs. A challenge that people sometimes get too is being asked, oh, what's the dog for? Because we all know people have visible and invisible disabilities, and it's really not anyone's business what you have the dog for. It's there. So little bits of education in terms of access rights and just the etiquette of how to deal with someone with a service dog jacket. In terms of the access, I will say it's kind of complicated out there, right? Because there's the laws and the rules, and it's inconsistent. I think not because there are no no national standards per se. So how many people have been out to, largely Canadian Tire and stores like that where people are allowed to bring their dogs and they see really kind of ill-behaved dogs? So there is a market. You can buy a service dog jacket on the internet. Doesn't make your dog a service dog, right? So it's that challenge. And because it's a human rights issue, people are afraid to ask. So it's that line of how do you respect with also being reasonable. So one fellow was telling me that a waiter was, kind of felt bad, kind of asking, like, okay, is your dog a service dog? And he had no problem. He had the identity card, he had everything, because I forget if it was the previous day or the previous week that they had a customer in with a dog, and he kind of sensed that it wasn't a proper service dog, but didn't really want to ask. And midway through the meal, the dog jumped up on the table and like destroyed all the plates and stuff like that on a customer's table. So obviously that's not behavior that you'd have in a trained service dog. So I'm kind of going around about here, not really clear on what I'm saying here, but just in terms of that access rights, they do have the legal access right, but how do you distinguish between like a proper trained service dog and someone who just has put a vest on their dog and is claiming it to be? So that's a bit of a challenge because it kind of makes it difficult for the people who have legitimate service dogs. So, I just tell the servers and stuff, you are allowed to ask. You're allowed to ask for the paper or the documentation. You can't ask what the dog is for. You can't, like, that's it. But, you can ask for that. Different level of conversation. I will say that our organization, I mentioned that there are no national, standards for training of service dogs, but we've been accepted into what's called the ADI candidates program, and we're seeking to get an accreditation from what's called Assistance Dogs International. So it's a voluntary accreditation to go through. It really, it requires that your organization and be operating to exceptional standards. Your dogs are trained to exceptional standards. So that's just an extra level that we're pursuing, because we've always wanted to, but also help to eliminate any final access barriers. Because there are some, for example, school boards that we've become aware of, that their policy is absolutely you're allowed to have service dogs, but your service dogs need to be accredited by an organization like ADI. So we're trying to get that accreditation so we can remove that barrier from any school board that our clients might be trying to send their kids to that have that requirement. Okay, so I feel really silly without my presentation that had everything that I was going to talk you through, but I think I've probably covered most of the things. General interest questions that we get. Some people are surprised to know this, that not all dogs pass. Not all dogs are cut out to be a service dog. So that's why I mentioned our program is a 2-year program. So the puppies are raised and socialized from a very young age, and we're exposing them to all the types of environments that they might encounter in their working life. They need to remain calm and not distracted in all of those environments, focused on their people. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Like, not all people are meant to be an accountant or something like that. So sometimes dogs are disqualified from the program, or some people use the word career changed. But that is some things that people like to know. So that's that. And I'm sure I missed a lot, so let's throw it open to questions, and you guys can ask me anything that's on your mind. And in the meantime, I hope I gave you a decent enough overview of who we are and what we do. I will say before, we've launched recently an electronic newsletter, only send it out quarterly, to talk about some of the impact stories, because we do a lot of work training the dogs and placing the dogs, but we're trying to get better about communicating the impact of these dogs, because they truly do change lives. And maybe, Kelly, I'll send you that one of the latest one.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Because one of the latest ones, we actually featured a young man in Belleville. So fascinating story. This is a, fascinating success story rather, where, the parents, applied for the dog for their, young adult child, hoping it would help him get out of the house. And the success was so phenomenal. He is now working at the local Canadian Tire there in town, right? So just in terms of the impact that you can have on someone's life, I mean, it can't be underestimated. They do the skills to provide whatever support they need, but that emotional and psychological support as well that the dogs provide their people. I mean, it's just it's incredible. And I don't do justice telling the stories, so you can read about some of them. And, in a future meeting as well, I'm not the best person to tell these stories. It's the people to tell the stories. So if you ever wanted to have one of our recipients come and talk about, the impact that the dog has had on them, that's truly the way to really understand the impact of what we do.
Great, Tina, and I was just going to ask you, what's your catchment area? I don't think we mentioned.
Yeah, and if I had the slide, I'd have all the areas in it because all the different counties. So we are in your area. We go down to like Ottawa, so Kingston area Loyalist. So I'm going to say kind of like within a 2 to 3 hour driving radius, right? Because I'd mentioned that we want to be able to support families anytime they need support. So I can't rhyme off all of the geographic areas in my off the
No,
top of
that's
my head
fine.
here,
Just
but
in general.
yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
I should be able to, but there's just too many.
Any other questions for Tina?
How many dogs a year would you be able to place?
So very good question, Bob, and it really depends. Some years are better than others in terms of the success rate of our puppies. It also depends on how many puppies we've been able to secure into the program. But I will tell you our goal for kind of moving forward is to try and always have 20 puppies in training in the program to be able to place around 12 to 15 per year. So we need to get better at measuring that for say, because we've been around for 10 years. So the first year it was kind of like a puppy or two after 2 years. And we're trying to get the groove. What's a sustainable level for us that we can train and support the families with these dogs. But it does really vary depending on, timing of year of when we can get the puppies, how well they mature and do in their program, if they make it through the program, et cetera. So lots of variables. So
You're to be congratulated for the job that you do.
well, thank you. Yeah, it's a wonderful organization. So, it's the most heartwarming. Like we're trying to, as the organization grows, right, it needs to become a little bit more sophisticated. And I don't know how many people are involved with charities, probably many of you, but the governance, like the legal governance requirements for a charity are just increasing, right? So making sure we're doing all of that, but we really pride ourselves on having that family feel, right? We're there to support our volunteers. We love our volunteers. We are there to support our clients and the families. So, so we're trying to keep that magic of that family feel.
Great. Thank you so much, Tina.
Okay.
It was a pleasure having you.
Well, thank you so very much. Reach out. Kelly has my email address if you have any follow-up questions. I've probably missed a ton of things, but great to connect and give you at least a high-level overview of who we are and what we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to note and receive? Okay.
That was made by Kelly and seconded by Deputy Warden Hagedorn.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay, matters for consideration, the Sharing Center entrance at Loyalist Township. Staff is looking for some feedback to be included with this. Anybody got anything on that they want to talk about?
Hi, thanks for having us on your agenda this afternoon. Is it possible to share my screen? And I know our report has been added to the document today.
Yes, you should be able to share your screen, Daryl.
Okay. And if you can let me know that is that the proper document? Good. I think you should see. So so we're about to advertise procurement for accessible access into our Loyalist-owned building on its fronts on Amherst Drive. However, the address is 177 Upper Park. It's the old Amherst View Fire Hall. For those who remember the Amherst View Fire Hall, it's been renovated and now has 4 spaces available, in which I'll just scroll through. So which one of them is run by Loyalist Township. It's the Leisure Activity Center where we have recreational programming. The Lions Club also has a space in the building, as well as the Amherst View Community Hall. and the sharing center, which is at it's along the Amherst Drive access. So it's the front or the storefront of the building. So the project is it's a design and build project. So we're contracting it out for, we do have a scope of work, which I will share with you, and some specifications. However, it'll be an engineered design with the accessibility code and building permits required by the successful contractor. If anybody has any questions while I scroll through, please just ask. Councillor Keller.
I had one. So it says on page 10 there, it says you're installing a new 42-inch wide by 84-inch high aluminum door with side light. The current opening is 57 inches. So is that the total opening is 57, or currently there's a 57-inch doorway there?
Yeah, apologize for that confusion. So it currently with the side light, it's 57 inches.
Okay.
But the door width opening will be a 42, which is larger than that it's there now.
Okay. All right. That just had me confused. I'm thinking, why are we going from a 57 down to a 42?
Sorry, I caught that before, just before when I read through it before this presentation, I caught it. So I apologize for that.
And then on page 12, you're installing a new 40-inch by 84 hollow metal door frame with upper glass portion. Why wouldn't we go to 42-inch there?
That's the interior door. I mean, we certainly could. We're looking at, and I can show you a picture of that door. So a better picture would be. Yeah, so this is actually, it's an old door. It's the access from the hallway into the sharing center.
Okay.
So this would be a brand new accessible door. We're limited to space. You can see where there's the electrical switch.
Okay, yes, I see that now. Yeah, one's a one side of you and the other side of you. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, that's fine.
No, self-explanatory there.
Okay.
That was all I had for that.
Sorry, so just you were saying it's going to be a fully accessible door. Where's that button going
Okay.
to go?
So at the front, there is an accessible door opener currently.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the inside, at the inside of the door, so there's an old drop box that's going to be removed. So the accessible, there will be an accessible button for the outside, the access to the building. So inside the hallway, there will also be an.
So where are we talking there? Sorry, just on that wall or
on the. Oops. Sorry, Kelly.
It's okay.
I'm just seeing if I had a picture of where it's going to go. So on the entrance way, it'll be consistent to where the existing one is.
Okay. The problem with that, sorry, I know it meets code, but when the door opens, it doesn't give you enough time to push the button and back out of the way before the door slams right into you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
so
duly noted.
The problem there is if you could put it on like next to the brick, that way it's away from the door and it still gives us enough space to back up without hitting anything.
Okay. We have proposed a ramp. So the ramp, according to our building department, would go parallel with the building, and we'll have a handrail along the building. Would the button, and then we would put the button on the left-hand side of the door going in, sort of going up the ramp.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it's away from the door and that it's easy access.
Okay.
That would be perfect. Bob, do you have anything to add there while I'm thinking? Hope you're on mute there, Bob.
Sorry, I was muted. I was muted. Is that door hinged on the right? The entrance door?
Correct. Yes, Bob.
Okay. All right. And then when you come up the ramp and the door opens kind of in front of you, because like Kelly says, there's lots of times that when you press that button, you're in the road of the door.
Yeah, if you're accessing the ramp, you'd push the button before you get to the door, and then the door would open prior to turning to go
Okay,
into the door.
perfect.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay, so the button on the inside, if we're going to the internal side, where is that going to be?
It was going like under, if you see where the first aid kit is, it was going along that
Yes,
wall.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that works.
that
That
will
works.
work. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the button into the sharing center, certainly get your opinion. Would be the only really place with this, with the old Dropbox removed. The button would be to the left-hand side going into the sharing center or along the
So
wall.
by the bulletin board?
I think it would be on the other side, the opposite side.
Okay. What I would recommend, and Bob, you can uh, answer this as well. It's always a good idea before you install to have somebody come and test those areas out. Because once you do the installation, it's really hard to change it. So we always recommend having somebody come do that test before you
Okay.
do the installation. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, as long as it's somebody who has a physical mobility problem.
Okay.
Also to make sure that the doorways are at least 42 inches for wheelchair accessibility.
Okay. That's the opening, Bob.
Yes.
So the door width itself should be 42 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, because our chairs come in all shapes and different sizes these days, so
Okay.
we're not all standard measurements there. Even though they suggest we are. Yeah.
Okay. Should I continue to go through, or it
Of
looks,
course, yeah.
say it looks like everybody's had a good chance to look at the project, so thanks for that. Yeah, part of the project, the sharing center is a busy location. For those who are not familiar, the sharing center, it sells donated clothing, books, toys, and small items, and in turns makes monetary contributions or donations to the community. So they will be affected. And right now, you can see by the existing door, their clientele is like seniors. So we have had some concerns raised by them about access. So it's a long overdue project, and we have funding for it. So we're excited to improve this access for the sharing center as well as for the main access into our building. Yes, we talked about the exterior door and the concrete ramp right now, and I can show you better in this example. That's when they, and I'm not sure the exact time frame, when they renovated from the fire hall to the existing building, they ground in order to make it, I would say, they try to make it accessible. So they ground the concrete floor down to ground level so that there is a bit of a ramp, I'll say, to allow accessible devices into the building easier. It is a struggle. It doesn't provide a block, but it does provide a rough entrance. So the proposal is to bring the floor back up to the existing level, and then when we put the new accessible door on, it won't be as low to the outside ground, it'll be level with the floor and the ramp will come up to it so that it'll be an easier transition. Again, it'll have the safety glass on the side. One issue that we have at this location, it's a light operator on the accessible door. The wind catches it frequently and pulls it open, and then it bends the rod. So we are going to put a stronger accessible door handler on there so it'll be stronger so that it doesn't open quickly, and it opens, I'd say, like on a proper rate for accessible.
I see, Daryl, you're gonna build a, concrete pad outside the door, 66 by 66. Would it be possible to go a little wider to offset where that button's gonna go, so you're on the concrete pad, you're at the same height, you press the button, door swings open, and you wheel on in?
Certainly is. So these are the dimensions that we were suggested or provided by a builder. So we can certainly look at extending the pad outwards, like at the you're suggesting it like a pad at the door, for the door to swing open.
Yeah, so if you took your pad and you went a little wider than 66 inches, you wouldn't you put the button over there by the drop box, wouldn't be in the way of the door swinging open when you press the button,
Okay.
and you'd still be on that same pad that's at the same height as everything.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Has anybody got anything else?
And I guess one of the they're both key doors to access the facility. With the existing structure into the sharing center, it's an old door and currently does not meet the accessible standards. So say we're excited to bring this up because they're a stronghold in the community, and it is a busy location. If you've been there during the week, they serve a lot of clients. Yeah, and that's so I really appreciate your feedback, and looking for the feedback and endorsement before we put it out for a procurement, so we can put some of these details or put these details in the procurement, and look at them in review once we have a design from a contractor.
Okay, so you would we looking for a motion to note and receive, or how do we want to do this?
I just have a quick question, Sheriff.
Yeah,
I
go
may.
ahead.
The along the ramp, it says that there's a railing that's attached to the building and a curb on the other side. Is there going to be a railing on the outside or just the curb?
It's just the curb. So it was recommended the handrail would be installed just on the building and not on the outside.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns on this? Okay, so staff looking for feedback. Guess we'll just wait and see what the next report comes back, or how do you want to do this, Daryl?
We can certainly share. We will take the comments and the notes that you provided, and ensure they're added to the design. I guess if there's anything outside of the comments provided the committee that don't exceed sort of the standards that were described here, would we come back with any any requirements that that we can't meet that's been discussed today. Our procurement's it's ready to be advertised, and we're hoping to have the contract begin sort of late May is sort of our time frame.
Okay, so can I get an approval to accept this project and with all the changes we've discussed? How you want to do that? Word that?
Well, so moved, Brian.
What was that, Bob? Sorry.
I said I would so move to approve and accept the presentation that we've had on this.
Okay, can I get a seconder for that? Kelly? All in favor? Motion carried. Okay. On to item number 2, community garden project in Addington Highlands. This is presented by Patricia. Yes, Patricia Gray.
Thank you, Chair. So I provided a report to the committee in advising that Addington Highlands has been approached by a community member wishing to create a community garden in the township, and provided some information on what that would look like. We don't have the complete design layout yet. We've asked for a bit of on-the-ground layout, but I've provided the committee with what the intent would be in the report. So it will be located at our office at 72 Edward Street. We have a large recreation facility there, and our playground is there, our ball field, and that type of thing. So the community garden just sort of fits that location. Would also have access to water and to parking. And we have a service road that runs between the building and the area that would be used for the community garden. And that road, by service road, it's just a hard packed gravel road that is very short in distance, lies at the end of the building, but then would provide access right to the community garden. So we propose to install a couple of accessible parking spaces at that location as well. So the community garden would eventually consist of a numerous amount of features. So there would be the garden with raised beds, there'd be green space, some fruit trees, and a chance for memorial trees perhaps in the future. A meeting place with shade. You'd of course need a shed, and there'd be a compost system. Rain barrel setup, gazebo and seating, greenhouse, security cameras and solar lighting are all part of the proposed overall vision for the space. The proposed garden would be fully accessible with wooden garden boxes at an accessible height with rows between that would be wide enough to accommodate mobility devices and support persons. The goal would be to make each raised bed accessible from a seated or crouched or standing position. The site would have, and also have a bit of a ledge on it for some tools to be set. We're proposing a site would have 12 garden boxes, probably 8 feet long and 3 to 4 feet wide, depending on what the best width is for sitting and reaching across. And the inner rows would have a material applied that provides ease of travel over the area, plus care and maintenance would be easier as well. So the community members, like I said, are still working on the design, but they did provide some photos that I attached in the report of the boxes that would be proposed, a bit of a design there, and some photos of other layouts that they have seen showing the rows, and of course the beds that are shown there are short, but we would propose that these boxes sit completely on the ground and not have legs so that they won't tip over, and they are good and sturdy for mobility to assist in getting up and that type of thing. And then I included a photo of the area proposed, so you can see the service road in the foreground and then the area of our open space in behind. So it's a bit of a early concept, bringing it to the committee. And although they do hope to get final approval from council and start working on this in May, I just wanted to let the committee know and see if there was any feedback on this, and if you've attended any community gardens elsewhere and have any feedback. We're just looking to see if we can get something going for this growing season. So if anyone has any questions.
I love the idea, Patricia, and I think it's wonderful to consider. And I love the raised garden beds. The only recommendation I would have is if you could kind of like scoop them so that there's enough space for our legs to get under, so that you're not hitting our knees as you're under them. So there's you can do them at that height, and you just kind of like put like a little scoop, like a little scoop, so that it has enough space for our feet and for our knees to get under without hitting.
Okay, so yeah,
those
Kelly, I'm
areas.
picturing then that height, whatever height we determine, and then even if you had a couple inches of soil, but then still be able to get in underneath it, that type of thing, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
overnight.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not, that wasn't a good explanation, but I think otherwise it looks perfect.
Well, we're still working on the design, and we have a number of volunteers looking to help. So we have some builders who apparently have come forward and met with this community volunteer, and different people are volunteering materials. So I'm sure we can come up with a good design that way.
That's amazing.
Oh, it looks like a really, really good idea. Neat concept,
Mr. Chair, if I might suggest, at the Parrot Center, we have the raised beds and they're on, I'll call legs. And so it's not a box on the ground. It's like legs with the bed on top of it. And then that way, any of the residents in wheelchairs can wheel under and be able to work in it.
Exactly, Tracy. That's what I was trying to get at.
I knew I'd seen them somewhere, but I was trying to figure out where I've seen them and exactly how it looked. Yes, that would be ideal. Yes, thank you, Tracy.
I will probably be out to the Parrot Center this week, so I could take a look. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, so the recommendation is just to note and receive on this one then.
And if we could include that direction, that would be from the
direction,
committee.
yes, to make it so the wheelchairs can get underneath of them.
So moved.
Yeah, moved by Deputy Warden Hagedorn. Seconded by Kelly. All in favor? Perfect. Okay, on to item number 3, the courthouse washroom renovations.
Thank you,
Does
Mr.
anybody-
Chair. I am going to just try to share my screen one more time because I've made it into a different format. And I'm hoping that the committee can see it.
Yeah, as soon as you go to expand on it,
I'm sorry, can you see it now on my screen?
I can
Yes.
see it on the screen, yes, but I can't make out.
Can you enlarge it, Tracy?
I can try, Bob. Let me just see here. I don't think it's going to let me because it's a PDF. No, it's not letting me enlarge it.
Okay, I can guess at it then.
Sorry, that wasn't a very good presentation. So this is the currently the men's washroom at the county courthouse. Currently, it has automatic door openers. And when you go in, there is a basin, and then is a stall and another urinal area. By removing that and changing the configuration, there'll be a full area for a full turnaround. We'll continue, obviously, leave the automatic door openers on the inside and outside. It will have a full-size adult change table. It has grab bars, and it will have an emergency call system. But I'd be pleased to answer any questions that the committee may have. I'm sorry, I think we've just lost our chair for a second here.
The only question I had, Tracy, is it necessary to take up the space for that change table?
Well, there's no, it folds, it's not down all the time, Bob, it's folded up. So it will not take up any space, but it is an accessibility feature.
Okay. That's the only question I had, looking at the diagram. I had Mimi printed off for me. And that's the only question I had.
Okay.
Okay, Tracy, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
I don't know what happened. It was, so my only question was, I guess it's just, why does this keep ringing in my ears?
Oh, I'm sorry, now we can't hear you at all.
You can't hear nothing now.
There, oh, we got it again.
Okay, that's really bizarre. So it only has one bathroom, or one toilet, is that correct? And a sink?
Yes, it will be a universal, so it will be for male or female and anyone with any type of abilities.
Okay, and what is the door opening? I can't make that out on this printout either.
Oh, they are, and I'm sorry, this is just the conceptual drawing, but it's the same size door opening it has now, and it has an automatic door opener on the inside and outside.
Okay, so the rest of these measurements are just giving, the distances between the wall and the sink basin and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right, just so that's all I could see was one toilet. I want to make sure I wasn't missing. Yeah. I wonder if my earbuds are going dead on me. Let me try something here.
Is that any better, Tracy?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, note to self, don't buy cheap earbuds.
That's much better, Brian.
Yeah, okay, no, I had a cheap set. I've got my good earbuds at home and I have a cheap set there that I picked up for here just for this type of thing, but that's why you don't buy cheap earbuds. Alrighty, sorry about that. So where were we?
If we could have a motion on the courthouse washroom renovation, including any feedback from the committee.
I was having technical difficulty. Was there any feedback at all?
Bob Clancy had asked about whether the adult change table was necessary because it takes up space, but it is a fold down change table or
Okay.
fold up, so it will not take additional space.
Okay, so we got a motion to note and receive this report. and to continue forward with it.
What's so moved, Brian?
Moved by Bob, seconded by, okay, Deputy Warden Hagedorn. Okay. All in favor? Okay. Compliance report, number 4, item number 4, accessibility compliance report. That'll be by Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the county's accessibility compliance report. Municipalities have to do one of these every 2 years, and 2025 is the reporting year for municipalities. So all municipalities will have to do one of these. So, and one of the things that we have to do is then make the report available to the public. So we're doing that by including it here, and we will have it available if anyone wanted to see it in the clerk's office. So I'd be pleased to answer any questions about the report.
Any questions at all? Seeing none. I guess that's another note and receive, is it, Tracy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Can I get a motion to
So moved.
move by Deputy Warden Hagedorn? I'll get that correct yet. And seconded by Kelly. Okay, all in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, county accessibility policy. And again, that will be Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the county's accessibility policy. We are not required to review it at any certain point, but we try to review it every 2 years. So we're bringing this to the committee now. As you can see, our only revisions that we're suggesting at this time are what we would call housekeeping in nature. One was that our website was updated last year, 2024, so we're including that. And the other was just a grammar error that we had in it from before. But we'd be, if the committee has any other suggestions, we'd be pleased to add them to the policy.
Go ahead, Bob. Does anybody have any direction they'd want to include with this? Okay, seeing none. If I get a motion to note and receive the accessibility policy.
So moved, Brian.
Bob, seconded by Kelly. Okay, all those in favor? That's motion carried. Is there any other business?
I
Yes,
just had.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kelly.
I just had a situation where I was at Emerge last weekend, and I noticed that they were lacking quite a bit of accessibility features. Two of the main ones that I was most concerned with was the lack of ceiling tracks in the patient areas, as well as an accessible washroom with a ceiling track. There was no way for me to use the washroom while I was there. So that, I think, is something that we need to look at, especially when we're adding extensions onto our hospital.
If I may, Mr. Chair, this committee doesn't cover the hospital.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that would be something you would deal with them directly. We do have Carolyn Cardoso on our committee, but she's on here as an occupational therapist, not representing the hospital. And Caroline, maybe you can speak to it. I believe the hospital has their own committee, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure how active it is, to be honest, at the moment, but certainly that's something I can bring forward. I know they have been working on adding ceiling track lifts and portable lifts and things to certain areas like the OR recovery room or places like that that didn't have it as accessible before. So if you're identifying the emergency department as a problematic area, I can bring that forward to management and see what they can do.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, Caroline, go ahead. I will support you on it because I'm also a board member at the hospital. Yeah, Kelly. Also too, Brian, in our minutes at the last meeting that we had, I asked about the accessibility ramp for Enterprise Hall. In the meantime, it has been done. And I would, I would ask Brandy if sometime maybe she'd, excuse me, if they take some pictures. It's quite a project. There's, excuse me, there's a roof over the ramp, and they've raised the entranceway. I've been in it a couple of times with my chair, and it's second to none. I'm really impressed at the job they've done. Secondly, I've been to 3 functions at the hall in Selby, and automatic door or door assist hasn't worked on either side. So Brian, that would be in your territory.
yes,
Yeah.
I'll be right on that as soon as we're finished this meeting.
Okay, appreciate it, Brian. That's all I have.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll get some pictures from our building department and circulate them to the committee. And I'll
Yes,
share that. I'll
I
share that
haven't-
feedback.
Yeah, I haven't seen the ramp, the ramp entrance myself in Enterprise, but I have heard good things about all the renovations they did back there. So that would be great to have pictures of that. That would be wonderful. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting at what is it? 2:14, I guess. Or 3:14.
So moved.
Right. Okay, seconded by Bob, all in favor, and the meeting is adjourned.